And so that way, if you are unable to see the whole thing in its entirety, you'll be able to see it on YouTube later. So without further ado, thank you so much, Donna, for being here. We're excited to have you.
Well, thank you so much, Lindsay, and for facilitating this presentation. I am so excited really to be able to pull this together and reconnect with the community during this crazy, crazy time that is really unprecedented. It's nothing like I've experienced ever. And I do feel it's really a time for all of us to come together and be one as a community and really support each other. So I'm really glad to be here. I'm glad to support the foundation and hopefully to give you some guidance and kind of help you rethink a little bit about education at home during this time of COVID-19. So this is a new reality. This is like nothing anybody has ever experienced before. I mean, all of a sudden, beyond just being a parent, you may be experiencing the role of caregiver if somebody in your home is ill with COVID or you have a relative that's ill. All of a sudden now you're your child's teacher, you are their therapist. You might be counseling them and trying to keep the stress level down. You have to organize all the activities and really you're on your own. There's nobody that's coming in to help you. You basically need to pull all of this together. And I've just listed a few things. I've decided I'm also a beautician and barber because I had to cut my son's hair. You know, luckily it didn't turn out too terribly bad, but you know, it's just, you know, your world is upside down. And as I think and step back from this, I realize how different the world is. I'm stressed now, and I'm sure that all of you have that stress level as well. But what I'm hoping to do today is try to refocus our thinking away from the stress of school and making sure that we've got all those assignments done and, you know, the tests done, and really come together as a family and rethink our priorities and really what's important, especially considering the 22q11 deletion and what that means and how that adds into an additional layer here that other families are not needing to deal with. So I wanted to rethink, really, I know school is important. I know how hard all of you really try to keep your child up to date and get those assignments in, but really we need to stop and kind of rethink. Our goal right now really is to maintain our family relationships, really to maintain that positive working relationship with your children and with your extended families here. I think it's a wonderful time for families of children with 22q to focus on independence skills, which are areas that we know with the deletion are often below what they need to be. So we can spend some quality time here kind of focusing in on those independent skills, time that we typically don't have because of the rush of the school responsibilities and also all those out of school activities that kids and families typically participate in. We need to rethink the worksheets and the book learning and start doing hands-on activities that may be available around the home. I want you to realize that in the scheme of things, in the large scheme of things, that a few weeks of missed school is not going to really make a difference long term. I know it's hard when there's pressure to get things in and to upload sheets back or to go back to the school and show what you've completed, but I want you to give yourself a chance to reset and realize that, you know, a couple of weeks here is not going to make the difference in a long-term situation. And I do think it's a time for us to really focus back on basic academics and basic skills and see if there are some things that maybe we would have time to do now, like mastering facts and multiplication and addition facts, and some of those fundamental basic skills that kids with 22q tend to have difficulty with. We can take some time now out of the day and really work to solidify some of those basic academics. So how do we maintain these healthy relationships that we want to have with our families? Well, we are staying in place, at least we are in Wisconsin, but it's important to stay busy. And I think 22q children do much better with structure during the day. So if you haven't done so already, you might consider doing a schedule and deciding, you know, when school is going to happen. If you have a time in the day to do baking, or if you have time in the day to do cooking, or if you want to put in an exercise time, but really put together some type of a schedule so your child knows the transitions and what's expected. I do think it's important to establish some family rules. This is very, very, very different. I meant families, parents that are working remotely may need to establish a rule that you don't bother mommy and daddy when they're on a conference call with work. And you have to think about your own family and what type of rules would be important, because you know, everybody is having stress. Everybody is, financially, emotionally, health-wise. So establishing those rules together, I think, might help set parameters of, you know, how to get along and how to respect each other's space. Kids are kids, and you know, it's a different setup at home than it is at school. So I do think it's important to set expectations for compliance. If they have assignments to do, you know, that the expectation is they're going to make a good effort to do that. If you don't have a reward system in place, you might think about setting up a reward system for effort and cooperation. And now that you control the child 24/7, basically they're under your watch and your time completely, it might be even easier to set up that reward system because you're not compelled to kind of bend the rules. They're there the whole time and you have complete control. It is important, I think, to give choices. Everybody wants to choose, like, what time are you going to do school? If the child likes to put it off till the end of the day, you might agree to do that one day. If there's not compliance and there's a big meltdown at the end of the day and they are tired and can't do their work at that point of the day, then you can come back and say, well, we tried that. It didn't work so well. So here's the choice. You can either do this in the morning or this in the afternoon, but we're not going to wait until the end of the day to do the assignments. And I do think it's important either for everybody, including myself, to really limit my exposure to all the COVID news. I mean, this is a scary time, and it's very easy to read every article and to get yourself all worked up and all nervous about everything. So I've tried to tell myself I'm going to limit it to a little bit of the news of the day and then move on. And I'm just not going to make myself crazy with it. So when we talk about independent skills for kids with 22q, here are some ideas of things that I find when I look longitudinally at some of these high school kids that I've worked with over the years that are trying to move on to college and really want to move on to their own independent apartment. Some of the areas that are deficient in the syndrome. So I would say doing these kinds of things with your child while they're home might really be a wonderful opportunity to try to facilitate growth in these areas. So cooking and planning meals, making sure that they're able to clean and to do laundry or to sort laundry, to fold laundry. Organizing their space, because executive functioning in the syndrome tends to be a problem. So helping them organize their rooms, finding places for things, ordering online. All of a sudden, I've become an expert at Instacart, which I never thought I would ever use to do my grocery shopping, because I love to grocery shop, but I'm afraid to go to the store. So we've started ordering on Instacart. And that's a wonderful opportunity to have your child sitting with you at the computer, figuring out what kinds of things they'd like to order off of Instacart and how to do that. Doing internet searches. We're all needing to shop online. So how do you do that? Bringing them in and doing those kinds of things. Money is always a problem with children with 22q. Identifying coins, counting change, using money. So setting up a store and doing those kinds of things together as a family might really help solidify some of those skills. Talking about budgeting and how much money we're going to spend this month on food might help them with the Instacart order. So all of those things can be tied into your educational plan at home. And to be quite frank about it, in my experience with 22q, these are the things that are really more important than actually the academics. So these are the things that are barriers to independence and employment and self-sufficiency and moving on. So if I were designing a program for my child with 22q, I would really use this opportunity to do some of these independence skill building activities. So there's also self-care. That would be, you know, I think most of them are good with this, but the younger ones, bathing and doing their hair and all of the things that go into getting presentable and going out in public. So self-care activities. Basic academic skills, things that you can focus in on for the younger children, the phonics, although that tends to be a strength with 22q, but for the little ones that certainly can work on phonics skills. Math facts, oh my gosh, if you can get those facts mastered with some drill and practice, what a wonderful opportunity that would be to work on those facts. You can break those down and just work as you start with the doubles and start with doubling the doubles with fours, and work with the lower facts and drill and practice, play games with it, whatever you can do. But when children master their math facts, especially the multiplication facts, it really makes a world of difference with being able to do fractions and move on to higher math skills. So if you can spend some extra concerted effort on those math facts, it would be well worth it. Coin identification, again, and counting change and counting money. Time concepts, again, scheduling and how long is it going to take you to complete these activities, having them estimate elapsed time is an important concept, and it's a concept that's often deficient in the syndrome. It's a great time to understand the world, understanding government, understanding the city that you live in, understanding plants and animals, whatever you can do to help your child, even if it's walking in your backyard and learning a little bit about how plants grow. And this time of year is my favorite time in Wisconsin. I have daffodils blooming. Finally, we've got green grass and things have started to be reborn, and the winter is slowly fading away, although it's cold today here. But understanding the world around would be a wonderful opportunity just to be exploring in the backyard. And then another point that I think would be something that might be worthwhile is helping your child add details. And this is something that, again, is an area of deficiency in the syndrome that can interfere with functional skills as adults. So it might be working with them on gaining that expertise of putting a lot of detail both in their conversational speech, back and forth conversation, but also if you've read something and they're describing what they've read, working with them on adding details. So I would say these are kind of the 6 areas that I would say would be kind of key areas to hone in on. So I'm not exactly sure what all of you are experiencing with your schools as far as, what they're providing. It runs the gamut from worksheets that are delivered and no internet access to having a lot of internet time, which for some kids is good, but other kids do not work well in front of a computer. The worksheet book learning can be tiring after a while if that's what kids are doing for the day. It's not very exciting. It's not very interesting. They don't have the classroom experience. And I do feel that it's probably not the best alternative now for what to do. So try to replace those worksheets with experiential activities, hands-on activities. You can talk to the school about options to fulfill requirements with more active learning if they're handing you a lot of read this chapter and answer these questions kind of assignments. For example, you might be able to set up a store in your home and for purchasing things to hone in on those math skills. I used to love this activity that I would do with my 5th graders, which was design a room. So we would have them redesign their bedroom, and I would give them a budget to work with, and they could go online and find things that they wanted for their room within their budget and purchase items. They printed off pictures of the bedspreads they wanted and the TVs that they wanted for their room and the color carpeting and their shag rugs or whatever they wanted to put in, the special lamps. They had a lot of fun doing that. It was a designing a room activity. You could have them start out with a budget, pick out what they want for their room, calculate it all out. You can add in tax. You can teach them how to calculate tax and put together kind of a scrapbook of their dream room. And some of them got extremely creative in my 5th grade classroom and had a lot of fun with this activity. My little grandson from Hudson, Wisconsin, and I did a little video conference, and I taught him how to do PowerPoint, how to do a PowerPoint presentation. And he actually loved it and got a lot more sophisticated than I am with PowerPoint by adding in all kinds of animation and all kinds of layering of different pages that he could do. But it was a fun way for him to pull together information for school for a report in a program that was more engaging than just write a paper on something. There are a ton of online programs that are available for online learning, like the ALEX program for math or ABC Mouse. Some of those are engaging. You can work with your school to see what platforms they support, so your child is, tuned into what the school is wanting them to do. Maybe a family play or a talent show that you can video share with relatives would be a fun way to do something. And then I'll talk a little bit later about setting up a spa. The best part of the day, and it's been the most fun for me during this COVID-19 outbreak, is to set up a spa. So just a few ideas of things that you can do that are away from the worksheet and away from that book memorization learning. So a lot of you might be wondering what your rights are regarding the school. And I wanted to talk to you a little bit about some of the things that I've learned through reading and through attending some webinars myself about what your rights are as a parent of a child with special needs and with this crisis. And I will say up front, I am not an attorney. If you have legal questions regarding this, or considering due process, or wondering about the legality of some of this, I would recommend that you consult with a special education attorney. But I can give you some general information that is available online and through my experience of dealing with the schools currently, and what I'm doing to support families through the 22Q Family Foundation and their IEPs. So there is programming available across the country. Schools are really supposed to be doing something. I know that schools were shut down for a few weeks and there was spring break, but schools should be up and running here. And when the schools are open to the general education population, special education students have the right to have their IEPs followed to the best of the ability of the school. Now, I will say that schools are scrambling. This is unprecedented. It's never happened before. And I'm imagining myself as a teacher, a general education teacher, trying to deal with this distance learning if students are uploading their papers or their projects onto a platform, having to click through, 28 kids' submissions on every single subject. If you can extrapolate that times, 5 or 6 different subjects on a daily basis, I'm sure these teachers at home are feeling extremely overwhelmed and wondering how they're just going to manage all of this. So putting yourself in a different perspective from the school, I think we all need to be patient and respectful of just how much pressure the regular teachers are under and special education teachers are under. The Department of Education has approved a lot more funding for distance learning technology and different platforms that might streamline this for schools and make this a little less cumbersome for staff. But this is in the pipeline, and I don't know that districts have really purchased this equipment or purchased the apps that they are going to need. So all of this is going to take time to implement. But they are required to meet the needs of students with disabilities. If you have a child that's blind, you can't give them worksheets. It's children with 22Q oftentimes need one-on-one support. They need a teacher that is explaining things. They can't learn very well independently. So, I'm encouraging parents of children with 22Q to request that the special education teachers are doing some face-to-face time with their child on a daily basis, and not just providing a video and expecting that child with 22Q to be able to execute a lesson. Parents are working, it's difficult for parents to do this. I think obviously a lot of this is falling on parents, but I do feel it is important to ask the school to provide some of that teleconferencing and direct instruction. I am participating in a lot of Zoom conferences with schools around IEPs. This is occurring all over the country. So it is slick, it works very well. It works for annual meetings and instituting evaluations. So conferencing with the districts is still going on all over the country. So if you feel that it's important for the school to set up a meeting for you, do not be shy about asking that. And I would look at the Department of Education website for their COVID-19 information. I do have a hot link here. This is going to be posted on the 22Q Family Foundation website. And through this link here, you can get to some of the key guidelines that have been published. And this is ongoing. So this is almost a daily update. So things change, and also they change by the state that you're in. So again, the staff is scrambling. If general education services are offered, special education needs should be met as well. They have to be tailored so that the IEP can be met and these kids can access instruction. So if your child, again, cannot deal with this on their own, you know, having that special education face-to-face is very important. Some of this can be done through the computer. However, for those of you who have children that are more involved, for example, if they're getting hands-on therapy, this can also include in-person assistance for things that, that pertain to mental health, physical safety, or health needs. So if your child is getting some of this through the school, you can expect somebody still should be able to come into the home. Now, obviously that is a risk to bring anybody into the home, but if they are wearing protective gear and they feel healthy, you know, that may be a risk that you're willing to take to have one designated person still coming in. But that may be available still during this COVID outbreak. Creative options for special education services. Testing can continue. Now, if your child is up for an evaluation currently, some of that testing can still go on. For example, they can do a record review. They might be able to distribute rating scales like a BASC or an ADOS. Some of those things can be done where it's done remotely. Parents can fill out their rating scale and send it back to the school for scoring. Some of the face-to-face testing, like the IQ cognitive tests that involve manipulating objects and actually sitting across from an examiner, those may have to be postponed till the summer when hopefully there's ability to meet face-to-face. The IEP meetings can be held again via Zoom. You may be able to, excuse me, set up teletherapy, especially with speech therapy, might be available back and forth through video conferencing. Compensatory education also can be offered if you feel that your child has really lost ground here because the IEP has not been able to be followed and you have not been supported through any of this teletherapy or video conferencing through special education support staff. You may be entitled to compensatory special education, and that has been something that the Department of Education has approved for districts to offer this, and this is an IEP team process decision, but it's certainly something that can very readily be available to you in time when things lighten up a little bit. The staff needs to be modifying the work that your child is being given according to the IEP. So if they are getting modified worksheets or modified math assignments, they still should be getting those modified assignments. If they don't have a computer or you don't have a Chromebook, the districts should be providing that technology for you for distance learning. And again, the Department of Education has just approved money for districts, so that should be in the pipeline if it isn't already. And I really feel with special education kids, there's no reason why there can't be video conferencing. IEP timelines are still in effect. So those 60-day timelines are in effect. Now, again, we're going to need to be flexible on this. If your testing is a 60-day time limit for, you know, the evaluation, you might have to say you have that time limit. It's starting. However, we're going to allow extensions for that face-to-face testing that still needs to be done. But IEP teams cannot just really say point blank, we're putting off everything till fall. They have to still make an effort to follow those timelines to the best of their ability, being flexible and staying within the confines of COVID. But again, some things can still be done. The IEP annual review can still happen. You can initiate an evaluation if you feel that your child needs to qualify. You can still initiate that evaluation. But again, paramount is the health and safety of the kids and the staff and the families. So, you know, I know that the guidelines are fluid, and it really, we all need to be flexible and respond and amend as the situation unfolds. If you're feeling stressed, the current situation isn't working, you can request an IEP team to convene and amend the program. So meeting with that staff, letting them know that your child is melting down at home if they're doing that, that you cannot be, it isn't effective. We need to get together and be creative and figure out what kinds of things can be changed to make this, again, going back to the beginning of this presentation, this is not a time to be fighting as a family. So, you know, we need to all work together to make this homeschooling situation work. If the district is telling you that they cannot provide speech, OT, and PT therapy, that it's not available, ask if they would be willing to provide pay if you go privately for this. If they're saying they cannot provide the services, maybe you can contract through the health system and the district can pay and reimburse that private therapist. So there might be opportunities to do that if the district is unable to fulfill their responsibility through the IEP. And then I think it's really important, again, those of you that have worked with me know that as a former math teacher, I am data driven. Write down what's happening. Keep a log and keep a notebook so that if you are going back and requesting compensatory time or therapy that has been missed, keep a record of what has happened, what's transpired, the number of meetings that have been missed, number of therapy sessions that have been missed, and the difficulty that's occurred with your child so that compensatory time can happen once this all clears up. It is really best if you can have these meetings occur via video or at least phone conferencing. I am not advising that families wait until next fall to do their IEP annual reviews and the end of the year meetings. There's going to be such a terrible backlog with districts if everybody that has a spring annual review waits until fall. You can imagine then all these fall reviews are going to be sitting in the pipeline, and there's just going to be this huge backlog of IEPs. So I would really advise you to contact your district and see if they can't set up a Zoom meeting. A lot can be done remotely and through written documentation. In fact, I think these meetings, in my experience, the ones that I've run have been wonderful. They've been very personal, and people are just, my experience has been very open and very willing to do this remotely. I think it's important also, especially for children with 22Q, to get things in place before next year, before the grade change and the new school year. A lot of this needs to be planned well in advance so children don't start the school year without the supports in place that they need for a new grade. And I think there is a lot of question with families, especially around immune issues, and if doctors are advising that they don't go back to school, even though children do go back in the general population, whether that's not safe for 22Q kids to go back, just what is that all going to look like? And how much schooling can occur, you know, when is this going to end, and how can we facilitate this in a way that we're not losing too much ground with that. You can put issues on the table regarding the distance learning if it's not working for your family. So don't be afraid to ask. I also think, again, that this is the unique opportunity for all of you to really reset, rethink, work on those life skills, but it's also an opportunity really for you to understand your child's learning needs. you may find by working with them one-on-one that you can become a much, much better advocate for your child, because you are actually their teacher. You're working with them. You're doing the assignments with them and understanding how they learn and where their struggles are. So if you've got insight, keep records on what's working for your individual child and what doesn't. And that's a perfect opportunity for us to go in and rework the IEP, change the accommodations, change the modifications. So I think this is a stellar time to really get to know your child the best you can. And again, if you are under a lot of stress making all of this happen, make sure you contact the school so that things can be done in a way that is facilitating a positive experience for you and your child. So my final advice to you, I guess, is just relax the best you can. And this is me with my little adorable granddaughter. We set up a spa, and I have to say, this was the very best thing. We have spa time, and we just have the best time. She does my spa, and I do hers. And it is just, we set up Alexa, and we ask for meditation music, and we just relax. It's time to limit the news watching, carve out some quality time for yourselves away from the family where you can decompress. Set up the video conference and have dinner with your friends across the cyberspace and with your family. And I think just really the advice is just to let some of this pressure of school go. Again, this is not make or break these weeks. I think what's more important is just your connections and your mental health and the mental health of your family. So if you need assistance and have questions specifically about your particular IEP issues, again, the 22Q Family Foundation is here to help you. If you don't have already, if you have not filled out an application, you can register under Education Station. Some of you, I'm sure, have contacted me already, and we have a working relationship. But please visit that 22Q Family Foundation website and find out. There's wonderful videos and resources on there that can assist you. So that is my presentation, and I think that there is time for some questions. So I'm here to answer and support.
Well, thank you, Donna, so much. That was so informative, and I think all of it's just going to be helpful to us. You know, when we get kind of stuck in things, it's nice to have an outsider's perspective. Mm-hmm. So we have a couple questions that came in. One said, my son is a first grader and has a lot of difficulty focusing and maintaining attention during video conference lessons. Any tips on how to handle that and help him get the most out of the Google Hangout sessions?
Right. And I think this is absolutely so common because it is just overload on the video. I think that, again, maybe working with the school, a couple things I would suggest is to break up the session, not try to do it all at once. If he's really having trouble with it, maybe you can watch ahead and preview the lesson, or you watch the video and then do the work with him without him having to necessarily watch the video. So I think being creative there, but you are not alone. I've seen and heard about this video problem where kids are clicking and it's just too much screen time. So hopefully some of those suggestions for other ways to learn would be better than all that screen time.
Next question says, social components of IEP. Any recommendations on how to make up this time? Participating in Zoom for my child is challenging. So that's another.
Right,
any recommendations for how to make up like the social components?
Well, you know, because we're isolated here, we can't really socialize, but you might be able to work on some skills, social skills. So one of the things that comes to my mind is to contact the school and ask about social skills curriculum. where there's curriculum out there that gives a social situation, and you can go through with your child how they would react in a social situation. It's a manufactured situation, and your child would think about the other person's perspective, maybe what the problem is that they have, what might be a solution. So I would ask the school for a social skills curriculum, and that might give you some work direction on how you can actually do some of this creatively with your child with a curriculum, rather than just trying to make all this up yourself. I would ask for a social skills curriculum from the school and see if they can't provide some of that for you. Or again, ask for a time that a therapist can work across cyberspace with your child. Or if that's not working, provide you with the scenarios, the questions, the way to approach the social skills. And then, one of the things my little granddaughter loved doing was to connect with her friend via the Chromebook, and they had a play date over cyberspace. So I don't know if that will work. It was very unstructured, but if you have a friend that maybe you can set up that time that they could just get together over the internet.
Yeah,
It's unstructured.
That's been a great help for Cohen, because he's only 6, and it is a little overwhelming to have the whole screen filled up with all the kids' faces. He gets really nervous. So we try just to do like a one-on-one. A follow-up question regarding the social skills curriculum. This person was just asking, do you happen to have like names offhand of good social skills programs or curriculum that they could, research rather than wait for the school?
Right. One of the ones that, we've talked about for years is Michelle Garcia Winner's Social Thinking. That's a curriculum that would be available. Those sheets and workbooks and so on, you can purchase online. Again, if this is part of your child's IEP, I would go to the school and say, what have you got? But Michelle Garcia Winner has the Social Thinking. You can, Carol Gray has Social Stories. Those are 2 gurus in the area of social skills. Another program that has been used is the Vis-a-Vis program, VISAVIS. That's Bronwyn Glasser and the 22Q researchers out of Switzerland that have put together this Vis-a-Vis program. That's ages 9 to 14. And that program works on several things, but one of those is recognizing emotion. And part of that program is social scenarios. So it was a lot of questions about how do you think this person would feel in this particular situation. And so that's the Vis-a-Vis program. So just 3 programs that come to mind would be those 3 programs initially, but I'm sure that there's a lot of other things out there. And I would really ask the school counselor to make some suggestions, and every school district really should have curriculum on this.
Yeah.
So I would anticipate that you would be able to get your hands on some things.
And I'm not sure if you can answer this, but have you heard if 22Q kids are getting COVID-19 at a higher rate? I mean, we know that we have a community with heightened weakened immune systems and heart defects. I haven't seen a ton of cases, even active on
I
Facebook.
have not been contacted by any families of, I have thousands of people that I've worked with over the years. I have not been contacted by anybody to share with me that their child has contracted this. So I don't know, different places in the community certainly are different with the rates and how prevalent it is in the community. But, I would be cautious, obviously, and, try to shelter in place the best you can.
This next question rings home for me, as I'm sure for many of you. Advice on combating "you're not my teacher." My 5th grader fiercely wants to work independently but needs support. We're creatively helping him to come to the realization that he does better when he lets me help in some areas, but it's still a struggle. And to this person, I have had the same issue, and my children, I used to be a teacher prior to doing this job, and they still don't buy it.
Right. I mean, you know, sometimes you kind of have to put your foot down a little bit. I know it's a little bit hard. I think sometimes switching the roles, you know, if your child would like to be the teacher for part of the time and teach you, and then you can reverse the role. This is my time to be teacher, you know, give them a chance to play school. But I think that, you know, you have to explain that during this time, that because they can't be in school, that you are the teacher. And I think that's what it is, but give choices and give rewards. And, you know, again, if you make that fun, sometimes the kids won't even recognize that, you know, you're doing school. If you can sort of set this up in a way that is more hands-on learning and less about the workbooks and worksheets. So, you know, I know that it's easy for schools just to say fill in the blank and here's a chapter to read and answer the questions. But for kids with 22q, that's like going to the dentist to get your tooth pulled. It's not fun. It's drudgery work, and it's difficult for them. So I would, if you're constantly getting that kind of work from the school, it's kind of an easy fix for the school to do that. But there's a lot more creative ways to approach this. And I think that that would be a question that I would be asking the staff there. Are there other ways that we can do this? Can we set up experiments? Can we, you know, learn how to do something? Can we work on those functional money skills? Can we do other things with math rather than just the book and the worksheets?
And that's a great answer. This next question kind of ties into that. Is that, I think I know the answer of what you're going to say, but is the school meeting IEP requirements for speech therapy by attaching a few worksheets on Google Classroom only? Obviously, we don't know what this child's IEP is, but I feel like with technology, no.
Handing you worksheets doesn't fulfill the therapy requirement. Therapy is face-to-face interaction that is targeted for your child. Mm-hmm. So handing you a worksheet is not therapy. That will not count for therapy. So you should be counting the number of actual face-to-face therapy sessions that are missed.
Okay.
So.
And so do you think that then that children will be eligible for extended school year or makeup therapy time? I know that.
Yes.
So do you think it will be based on like the compensatory hours or more that they're qualified?
Well, yeah, I think that if there's therapy in the IEP, I think an argument can be made that if they've missed all this time, they get those therapy times made up. Mm-hmm. As far as the special education minutes, again, I would keep that data. If they're really jumping into this and you think you can keep them up to date and they're flying with us and you don't feel that there's a lot lost, you might not feel that compensatory education is really necessary. My guess is for most children with 22q that there will be a need for some compensatory education. So I would definitely write notes about how hard it is for your child to attend the video Zoom, that it's very difficult, that you're missing hours, they're not able to complete the work without you sitting next to them. And then it is an IEP team decision about the compensatory education minutes. So it may be extended school year, it may be time for tutoring next year once school opens up. It may be spread out. Who knows how long this COVID thing is going to be, and if schools are going to be closed again next fall. I hate to, you know, put a wrench into this, but we just don't know. So it would be a matter of keeping the data, and your child may be eligible for some of this extra time for a long period of time. So it may be one-on-one tutoring. I think for kids with 22q, they work really well in a small group or one-on-one. So compensatory education, I think, might be a very positive approach if it's a one-on-one or a very small, intimate group option for them. They can make a lot of progress gains with that type of a setup.
Okay, great. I think those are all of our questions. I mean, I really appreciate you taking the time to do this because I feel a little bit better already.
I
I
hope
really
so.
think for me, being a previous teacher, I know that regression is a real thing. But I think there's so many life skills and important, necessary skills that a lot of our children, as they grow up, still struggle with as adults. That to focus your time on those, like telling time and counting money and math facts, and I think it's really just the time to spend with our families. And I'm learning so much, like being able to see my son, those extra 6 hour, 4 or 5 hours a day. I am taking data and I'm noticing, oh wow, like the teacher is saying that he gets, these math facts, but they are just, it's, whew, it's in one ear out the other. And I'm just able to see that because I'm actually teaching him now.
Right.
So I think it's kind of nice to have, to have this lens,
Absolutely.
and, hopefully it won't go on forever. I mean, hopefully there's light at the end of the tunnel. We'll continue to provide you guys the resources that you need. We're trying to share any resources that we have daily, and we'll hopefully do some more of these webinars to kind of keep everyone engaged and
Yeah. And supported, and really love to everybody out there. I just feel for the families, and it's just the added stress. I mean, this really is an added stress already in a situation where you're raising a child with significant needs. So my love and best wishes to everybody out there in the 22Q family, that everybody is keeping healthy, and we're all going to get through this together. That's what I keep saying, and take one day at a time.
well,
So,
thank you so much, Donna. We hope you stay in good health, and hopefully we get to see you again really soon.
all right. Thank you, everybody. Take
Have a great
care.
afternoon and good evening.